What is going on, guys? This is Hold the Door DFS. I know some of you are probably just getting on, which is great. And if you don't catch the live stream of this, we are, trying to do some more live streams to allow our viewers to interact with us. Post comments. If you put things in the chat, then I can certainly respond to those things. So if you are new to our channel, hit that subscribe button below. Otherwise, if you can throw a like at this video, that is greatly appreciated. I am going to be covering the Sunday night football game here between the Green Bay Packers and the Tennessee Titans. We are going to go over the odds, the weather, the DFS breakdown, and then we will also get into some monkey knife fight plays. So if you are interested in monkey knife fight or are new to it, I think there are some nice plays here on this slate. But again, for those that are just hopping on, let's get into it. So I'm going to share my screen. Looks a little bit different than we have in the past. So just bear with me trying to, make things look a little bit nicer and easier for you guys. So Tennessee Titans at the Green Bay Packers, Sunday night showdown. Both teams obviously doing really well. The Packers are a 3-point home favorite with an over-under of 53.5. The over-under to me is a little surprising. Not that both teams can't score, but maybe they aren't that worried about the weather. It looks like we have. So if we look at the weather here, this is in Green Bay. There's chances of snow here. Not too windy, but there's chances of snow. 90%, 90, 85%, 90%, 90%, 75, 60, all the way till 9 o'clock. And the game was supposed to start, a little bit after 7 o'clock Central. So I do think that has a slight impact on this game. Now, I would say the advantage is going to go to a team or to somebody like Aaron Rodgers. I take that back. I think the running game obviously still benefits somebody like Tennessee as they are able to run the ball. But I do think that Aaron Rodgers and the Packers have just played in this cold weather. And he even mentioned last game against Carolina when it was really cold and they didn't perform that well. He was really disappointed because he knows that their team is suited to be able to play in cold weather. He can still throw the ball. Devonte Adams can still get there. So I think some of those things you can take into effect, but I wouldn't overcompensate for potential weather. I do think the total might be a little bit too high with that weather factoring in. All right, let's get into tonight's slate. Again, I hope you are able to see this. I can't see myself doing it at the same time, but let's get into it. And I will use the 3-2-1 format. Again, 3 of my favorite cash plays, 2 of my favorite values, and my fade. So on the Packers side, and normally when we're playing Packers showdown slates, it's typically like jam in Rodgers and Adams, and then if you're picking Jones or like another stud from the other team. This slate is not going to be as clear cut that way. And I think for a couple of reasons. So obviously I think Aaron Rodgers, as you can see, has probably the highest floor on the slate and ceiling. I guess you could say that with someone like Adams too. But I mean, just consistency. You love Aaron Rodgers in almost any spot, especially in prime time. Then we have Devonte Adams, 11,000. Was a little bit underwhelming last game. 7 catches, 42 yards. Still hit double digits. Still has a massive ceiling and floor, and this is a phenomenal matchup for him. The reason that this gets more interesting, I would have been much more likely to fade Aaron Jones before now that Jamal Williams is likely out. So, last game he torched Carolina and mostly in the first half, but played basically the entire half when Jamal Williams is hurt. And, I think again, figuring the weather in a little bit, I think that increases the chance that he's going to catch little drop off passes from Aaron Rodgers. So, I mean, to have these 3 guys here and then know that there's at least one other guy on the other side of the ball that you want, that's where this slate is going to get really interesting because you're not going to likely be able to get these 3 plus Henry without completely punting at captain, which you can do, and we'll get to that. Tanyan at 6,400 has just been like a touchdown machine lately. Touchdowns in his last, say, 5 games. Yeah, 5 games here. He's a great red zone target for Aaron Rodgers, and I think, you're consistently going to see him get targeted. I still think, like, if you take those touchdowns off of any of those weeks, then you probably were not satisfied with the performance. You wouldn't have been satisfied with the performance at 6,400. So therefore, I think he's touchdown dependent, and I think in a build where it's going to be heavy on the stars, that it's going to be, you're not going to fall in the 6,000 to 7,000 range a ton. Lazard and Valdez-Scantling, it seems like they just kind of like take turns on, like who's going to have a better week. Lazard had 5 catches, 56 yards last week. Previously wasn't that great. He did mention, it did say here down in the notes that with a 77% snap share being his largest since week 3. So I think, and obviously this is a phenomenal matchup for them. I think, he's a little bit more GPP still for me. And then you have Valdez-Scantling, who, again, is kind of like starting with Lazard, but didn't really do much last week or play at all, it looks like. So I don't think he's really in play at all. I think he's more GPP. I prefer Lazard over Scantling. Crosby kicking. I think I would actually, this one, the weather definitely could make more of a factor, or, as we get closer to kickoff, if it's like snowing pretty significantly, the wind isn't bad. But, if there is some decent snow, I can't imagine them attempting a lot of field goals like 50 and on. So kickers are always in play, but there's another player on the other side of this game that I'll mention here in a little bit that is just slightly more expensive than the kickers that I prefer a lot more. Defenses definitely could be considered here if the weather's a factor. AJ Dillon, though, is going to be one of the values that I'm going to look at here. I do think that they just give most of the workload to a guy like Aaron Jones because they know he's capable. So I don't think that they're going to go away from Aaron Jones here. But I do. But with Jamal Williams doubtful, they will spell him at times. And I think AJ Dillon is going to be the one that would be the backup. So I think he's definitely in play for 1,400. No, by no means is he a lock. He's not like Marvin Hall was supposed to be for the Cleveland game, even though he was awful. But Mercedes Lewis, you could always pay for that one catch. That's going to get him like value. He's going to like double his salary with one catch. And if he gets a touchdown like he did in week 12, you are dancing. So he is certainly alive at 600, and Sternberg's still out. And then the rest of this is just kind of a fade for me. So let's get to the other side of the ball, and then we'll get into some actual builds, because I know you're looking at this right now thinking, okay, you have Derrick Henry, Tannehill, A.J. Brown, Aaron Jones. How do you figure out where to go here? Derrick Henry, 12,400 is the most expensive player on the slate. It's a good matchup here. I think Green Bay is like 5th worst against the run. And if weather plays a factor in it, they're just going to feed the ball to him. So, and obviously he's got touchdown upside. 12,400. I can't argue against him. I feel more comfortable with Aaron Rodgers, but I think you can definitely play both. Ryan Tannehill is somebody that, has had these huge games, especially, everybody has huge games against Detroit, but in games that are higher scoring and really close, I think this one might be close, but lower scoring. So Tannehill at 10.6, I prefer Devonte Adams, and I also prefer Aaron Jones. So Tannehill is kind of getting crossed off for me right now. Doesn't mean that I won't get back to there maybe in cash, but right now I'm not really feeling like he is falling in the price point that I want to pay for in cash. A.J. Brown, 9,000, would fall into a similar category. Again, I think I'm just trying to imply that there's going to be a little bit less throwing here. But that could be more just kind of worried about the snow or weather than it actually affects it. But we know A.J. Brown has massive upside. Again, like I prefer getting to Aaron Jones over A.J. Brown. I prefer to get to Adams over Tannehill, but Tannehill and A.J. Brown are both viable as well. Corey Davis at 7,800 has had some really monster games as well. So it's really hard to argue against him. Again, falling in a really awkward pricing point. 100, it's going to be hard to get there. if you're trying to pay up for the studs. Janu Smith, I really like at 4,600. I think he's underpriced. I think he's got, obviously he has touchdown upside. He could, in a game where there might be some more short passing, they've, done some design runs for him in the past. So I think he's definitely in play at 4,600 as a better option than the kickers, especially if the weather is a factor. Gostowski, obviously longtime Patriot, is, doing better lately. Had, a couple rough goes there for a while, but Gostowski is definitely in play as well. Just make sure you monitor that weather. As we move down here, Titans defense is going to be tough to swallow. Again, unless you just think the weather just causes fumbles and turnovers and whatever, then 2,600, if you get 5 to 6 points, you're probably happy. Then we go down to 2,000. Evans here just exploded last game. Obviously, he got a lot more touches than he normally would because they were beating up on Detroit. But I do think he and maybe McNichols are going to be the spells for Henry. And this is the first time he got a lot of action all season. He's a rookie, I believe, out of Appalachian State. So definitely a viable candidate at 2,000. Ferksker at 1,600, is likely not going to put up a 0 for you, but I don't know his involvement with Janu Smith back. He's not the number 1 target at tight end when he is there. Cameron Batson, he always seems to find his way on the field, and he actually has like a prop in the Vegas book. So I think they think he might play a little bit for 1,000. I guess you could maybe consider him, but I'm not really that intrigued. And then Jeremy McNichols is the other spell that has been in for Derrick Henry at times. But what's interesting is he got a way less work than Evans did last game. So that's why I prefer Evans. I do know the price difference is huge, and McNichols is definitely a risk of like just getting 0. So I think you want to be careful with someone like that. All right, let's get into the actual builds here, and let's kind of go over my favorite cash plays. So let's look at the slate now as a whole. So I think Aaron Jones with Jamal Williams out is almost a lock to me, and so is Aaron Rodgers. Okay, and then when I'm looking here, the next group, then I really want Henry. So right there, I'm already, not feeling great about fading someone like Adams. So I think, so that's hypothetical. Like you can't get. Let me just put that back in there. I don't think I can even get Adams if I wanted him. Let's put Jones back at captain, and this is with Jones at captain. 450. Yeah, you would have to go like McNichols, I think. Maybe even like Tavon Austin gets a. So say if you want like Mercedes, you go like Mercedes Lewis and McNichols or something, and then you can get all there. If you feel comfortable with a build like that, that's fine. Go ahead. If you want to get a little bit more creative and go somewhere cheaper at captain, so say you go Janu Smith, and then you go Adams and Jones. You can't even do that. That's too expensive. Let's go down to like I don't even think we can do a kicker there. So if you go Gostowski, yeah, I mean, you're going to be drawn dead pretty soon if you go all 4 of these guys. So I guess that's really going to be the decision on the slate. Like Adams at 11,000, unless you get really crazy and just want to fade Henry, which seems really like a suboptimal choice. But it could be just because the price tag, like 12,400 is crazy high. But so a lot of decisions to make on the slate. My 2 favorite values are going to be AJ Dillon, who I like. Like maybe you plug him in at captain, you can probably make it work. AJ Dillon and Evans, and then probably just looking at a flyer on somebody like Mercedes Lewis just to like catch a ball, and then going a little bit higher value is the kickers and Janu Smith. So my fade is going to be kind of like the mid-range Corey Davis, Tanyan, even though they could probably pay off. Even Lazard and Scantling. Scantling for sure is a fade for me. That means he will definitely now score a touchdown. So let's get into Monkey Knife Fight. So if you are new to Monkey Knife Fight, it is a daily fantasy site as well. It just looks a little bit different than your Fanduel and DraftKings. Instead, it gives you these awesome contests where you can select between more or less on different players for yardage and touchdowns and things like that. So this is the one that stuck out to me. Now, if you compare this to the Vegas books, I think Davis is maybe at like 60 yards and Lazard is close to 55. Now, I am playing the weather into it a little bit and the fact that I think both teams will be running the ball more often. And Lazard's role, even though he had 77% of that snap share, I don't know that his role just like screams, like throw him the ball a lot. I still think it's Devonte Adams, Aaron Jones, Tanyan, and then whoever else fits. It's not like let's draw up a play for Lazard to get him the ball. So the lines just felt a little bit high for guys that I think are secondary receivers. Now, Corey Davis has crushed this line many times this season. I don't feel like this is a game, unless they're trailing, that they're going to be needing to throw the ball that much. If you're also new, you can look at some of these fantasy lines, fantasy points. The scoring is similar to DraftKings or Fanduel, except for closer to DraftKings because it does have PPR, but it does not have any bonuses. So 300-yard bonus is not in play here. If I was looking at this one, I'd probably go less on both or lean over on Rodgers and under on Tannehill. One that I do like to look at quite a bit is the 2-for-2 rapid fire. So guys' fantasy points against each other. I was kind of hoping that we would get somebody like Aaron Jones in these props, but I think Derrick Henry getting 3.5 points to Devonte Adams, I really like that. And then I really like Aaron Rodgers covering 4 points for him. And this kind of game script would work out where Aaron Rodgers would be throwing more than Tannehill and Derrick Henry would be able to run the ball. You can get really crazy and get up to some I don't really get up here too often. It's more GPP, but you can look at yardage line props as well. And then, go over under on a 4X. You could potentially, score 500 into $5,000 if you were able to select all those correctly. So also, one last thing. If you think both running backs just go off, you could do rush hour over 224 yards rushing, add in Jones and Henry. I think that's in play especially with the potential of the snow or this passing one. We know Adams can certainly get to something like 11, 12 catches is not out of his range of outcomes. And then I would be adding in, somebody like A.J. Brown and Corey Davis that I think that could potentially hit something like that. If you are playing the touchdown dance tonight, which I do like actually, I really like Derrick Henry, Aaron Jones, and Devonte Adams. I think that group here can easily cover 3 of those touchdowns on the slate. I think they could even hit 4. I think, going up to 4 to 5, 4X at 4 touchdowns is a little bit more risky, but I think you're getting a really concentrated group of studs on this slate that will likely be the ones getting into the end zone. The rushing yard, this prop is kind of interesting too. I like Aaron Rodgers to pass, 52.5 yards is quite a bit. I just really think that they're going to lean on the run quite a bit here. So again, if you are new to our channel, I hope you enjoyed today and going into this. So, oh gosh, we have some awesome comments. I am glad to see that. Dillon could be a sneaky play with Williams being doubtful. Yes, I am all over Dillon. I think at 1,400, I just hope at 1,400 they actually give him some burn. I know I'm likely going to be playing Aaron Jones too, but I do like Dillon. Ranzo, thanks. Very tricky slate. Yeah, it is one that we normally don't have this many studs at the top of the slate. Even like a Kansas City slate, I'm almost always committed to the top 3 studs. And then just if I'm fading the other team, it's just whatever else fits. But again, if you guys can give this video a like, I greatly appreciate that. Throw in some more comments. I'll get this video out. You can always go back and listen to what we talked about. If you're looking for more content and my core plays for the slate, go over to our Discord channel at Fantasy Sports Insight, fsidfs.com, and get signed up. And we will get you hooked up in our Discord channel. Otherwise, check me out on Twitter. I will, if we get some injury news, I will throw out a little bit of a video on there for some updated plays and some updated news. Again, thanks a lot for the support, guys, and good luck tonight.